It's a skill that all senior devs build by accident over years. And it looks like it's the whole job now. That skill is systems thinking. These days, in a world where AI generates code you didn't write, you kind of need it on day one. That's the actual shift. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Hack. I'm a product engineer turned founder, and I've been building software for over 20 years, writing code the old way, and now building with AI daily. I run Agentive Stack, a product studio where we build software that runs itself, and where we explore this new wave of agentic products and AI building. This channel is about that exploration, what actually works and what's breaking quietly sometimes along the way. Now let's get into it. In 1985, a Danish computer scientist by the name of Peter Nauer wrote a paper called Programming as Theory Building. That paper touched on a simple but very interesting argument, that the code isn't the program. The program is what lives inside the programmer's head, how the pieces connect, why they connect in the ways they connect, and what happens if you pull one out. That's the program. The code is just the shadow of it, as Peter Nauer puts it. 40 years later, today, we have AI coding agents that generate that shadow on demand for us. But the program isn't gone. We just stopped building the theory of it, because these new tools that we have at our disposal makes us confuse the two. Last week, I put out a video on comprehension debt, or cognitive debt, as a lot of you pointed out in the comments. The tax we pay when we ship AI-generated code we don't understand. Now, the video got a lot of traction, I have to say. Thousands of views and hundreds of comments. But one question kept surfacing, coming from some of the juniors and people early in their career, asking, if AI writes the code, how do we build the judgment we evaluate? Should I still learn code these days? That's a very fair question, and it's a question everyone building software with AI should be asking. I think we've been focused on the wrong skill, because when the code got cheap to cheap is not the right word here. Easy. When code got easy to produce, to generate, everyone doubled down on prompting. Better prompts, better models, better tools. The prompting is the easy layer now, and it's only getting easier, because new models promise to understand user intent better, without too much context, although the output is still disputable. But as we move forward with this new way of building software, there's one skill that still matters, and it will continue to matter for a good while. That skill is systems thinking, or systems design and architectural thinking if we spread it wider. It's a skill that all senior devs build by accident over years, and it looks like it's the whole job now. We're moving up a layer beyond mere code. So let's do a quick definition, because we can throw words around loosely. A system is not just a bunch of parts put together. A system is a pattern of how those parts affect each other over time. Change one and the others react. Miss a connection and the pattern breaks. These come from systems dynamics. Let's think of it like an orchestra. Code is the instrument. The system is the music. AI can play any instrument on demand. Violin, drums, brass. Often better than a human can. Now, music people, please don't backlash on this. I'm using it as an analogy only. AI cannot replace you, but someone still has to conduct. Someone still has to know how the parts fit together, when the strings should hold back, when the brass should come in. That's the conductor now. That's you. No matter if you're a senior, junior, or non-technical, you need to know how to conduct the orchestra. AI is the orchestra, but it will never be the conductor. And let's be honest about where we are right now, because we're not going back. That's for sure. Agentic engineering is here to stay. The giants and the incumbents all push for it. The old ways are pretty much gone. Spec-driven workflows, coding agents, AI pair programmers, agent harnesses. That's the stack now. But the accumulated experience still applies, more than we like to admit. We just need to adapt to this new way. The job description of a developer has already changed. It just hasn't updated in most people's head yet. Harvard researchers coined the term jagged frontier, which describes the fact that the tech is sharp in some places and surprisingly dull in others, sometimes in the same session. Knowing where those edges sit, like what the model nails or what it quietly gets wrong, that's now a core developer skill. It's part of the new literacy. So let's make this more concrete. For builders, systems thinking comes down to three questions you should be able to answer without running the code. 1. Where does state live? Meaning, who owns the truth in the system? If two pieces each think they own it, you already have a bug. You have an issue. You just haven't triggered it yet. 2. Where does feedback live? What tells you the system is working or not? How do you know? Logs, metrics, errors, all bubbling up somewhere. If nothing tells you that, the system isn't working. Probably it's pretending to work. 3. What breaks if I delete this? Can you trace the blast radius of any component or part of the system in your head before you touch it? That's the theory Noah was talking about. Now, I've been auditing AI built apps over the past few months, and the most recent one was a lovable base product built by a non-technical founder. The product was already live for a few weeks with real pay customers and quite a handful of third-party integrations, which was impressive, I have to say. That's what we want after all, as builders. We want people using our products. But the code base was a mess. There was this one file, which was 7,000 lines long, with several user flows and business logic all tied up into one. Logs were empty, there was no rate limiting, no proper error handling, but the app was apparently working until it didn't. Every single failure mode in there was a systems thinking failure, not a coding one. Where does state live? Well, everywhere, all at once. Where does feedback live? Nowhere. We're blind. What breaks if I delete this? Never asked, never cared. The system was incoherent. My audit report had a lot of critical stuff that needed to be addressed ASAP before adding more customers, or this thing will crumble as a house of cards. Now, we haven't touched base ever since, but it looks like they decided to rebuild it from scratch, which was probably a good decision. So, AI can write any individual piece and still have the whole thing be nonsense if not done correctly. Now, I need to address something because in the last video, the main pushback in the comments was around how AI is just the next abstraction layer. And just like we move from assembly to C to Python, AI is the next step. Yes, I agree. Thank God we don't write assembly anymore. And I get the argument, but I also think it's wrong. Here's why. When you write Python code and the compiler produces machine code, that translation is deterministic. For your input, you get the same output, provably correct. You don't need to understand what the compiler did behind the scenes because the compiler guarantees it did the right thing. That's what makes it a trustworthy abstraction. An LLM is not that. It's just a probabilistic translator. It's stochastic by nature. For the same input, you get different outputs almost each time. No guarantees. This compiler could introduce a security vulnerability, a race condition, or a wrong business rule without you knowing. A compiler is a layer you can trust without understanding. An LLM is a collaborator you can only trust by understanding what it did. They're not the same kind of tool. The abstraction argument only works when the layer below you is verifiable. This one is not in the traditional way. Now, systems thinking was always critical. It just used to be something engineers built up over years. These days, in a world where AI generates code you didn't write, you kind of need it on day one. That's the actual shift. One more thing, because this matters. If you're a junior watching this, I don't want you thinking you're the problem. You're not. The reason senior devs have this skill is that they suffered through it. We had to. Every senior I know, me included, built this systems thinking skill by failing publicly on systems we designed wrong in the first place. And yeah, we had users shouting and stakeholders, PMs, product owners, breathing down our necks. Sadly, that part hasn't changed much. If anything, It's worse now from what I see around. The pressure only went up. Faster shipping, higher expectations, less patience. What changed is the escape hatch. Back then, when you hit a wall, the only way was through the wall. You had to sit with the code until you actually understood what you shipped. AI didn't take the pressure away, it took the wrestle away. That suffering was the curriculum back in the day. The Harvard study by Hosseini and Lichtinger, and I'm probably butchering the names, had pulled resume data from 62 million workers across 285,000 US firms. And they found that after first quarter of 2023, companies adopting generative AI cut junior hiring sharply while senior employment kept rising. And they named it seniority bias technological change. The industry cut the path that used to turn juniors into seniors. But plot twist, early 2026, the pendulum started swinging back. Software engineer postings on Indeed are up 11% year over year now. IBM just announced it's tripling its entry level hiring in the US. Intuit is expanding junior recruitment. Salesforce, whose CEO said last year they'd stop hiring engineers, is back to hiring. The industry is figuring out quietly that AI is not the shortcut they thought it was. They still need people who can oversee these agents, own the architecture, and catch what their models quietly get wrong. They broke the pipeline. Now they're realizing they can't live without it. So they're back scrambling to rebuild what they just broke. The next time a CTO complains there are no good mid-level engineers, remember, the industry stopped letting anyone be a junior, and now they need them back. So if you're a junior, you're not behind. You just got robbed of the forcing function, which means you have to build one on purpose. And that's the rest of this video. So here's how I think about it. AI coding is the fast food of our craft. It's cheap and fast. Again, we need a better term. Cheap is not the right term, but it's genuinely useful when you already know what a real meal tastes like. Senior devs had to cook every meal themselves for years before AI showed up. So they know what the real thing tastes like. They also know when the fast food is off. Juniors today don't have that baseline. Their first 100 meals might come out of a drive-thru, and that raises a real concern. If nobody cooks anymore, who becomes the chef? Will we end up with a generation that never learned the craft? Honestly, I've been sitting with this one, and I think, yes, there will be fewer, but the ones who will make it will be more valuable than any senior before them if they build the right discipline for it. Let's think about fitness for a second, because it's very relatable. 100 years ago, everyone was fit because manual labor forced it. Today, the average person is less fit because the environment does less of the work. But the elite athletes today are the fittest humans who have ever existed. Because deliberate training is a thing now in a way that it wasn't then. Coding is going down the same path. The average junior in 2026 will probably be less systems fluent than the average junior in 2010, but the junior who deliberately trains, who chooses to cook or to lift, will be more differentiated than any junior I came up with so far. The industry churns and the disciplined minority will compound. You just need to pick which side of that you're on. And one more real change, worth naming quickly, which is very relatable to me also. AI is collapsing these traditional silos of back-end, front-end, ops, database. A dev who used to be pure backend can now ship full-stack features without spending 6 months memorizing React conventions. The tools handle pattern matching, and the developer handles the judgment calls. Personally, I love the craft. I love building things from scratch. Software has been my way of expressing that for the past 2 decades. I love sketching the idea. I love putting pieces together, thinking about visuals, the user journeys, how someone actually interacts with my product, nitpicking on the details, the micro interactions. But I also love the plumbing behind it, the architecture, the networking, the services, how they all fit together. I could never stay in one lane. Not front end, not back end, not DevOps, or whatever roles there were back then. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick front end, but I knew that I would miss parts of the back end and DevOps lanes that I love. And that shape used to be a problem for me, at least. I've worked with a lot of other engineers throughout the years who were a lot smarter than me, and each one of them was specialized, deep in their own lane. Now that shape flipped, and AI handles the depth of any of those lanes. What it can't do yet, is hold the entire thing in its head, see the big picture, and decide what actually matters. That's the generalist home base. That's their turf. That's systems thinking. So this new way, where generalists can work cross-stack more easily, it fits perfectly, at least for me. I can finally focus on what I love the most, the craft. But that only works if the judgment is there. And that judgment is, again, systems thinking. And one more thing. I know I said that before. This skill is something we all need to build up and use. Every builder touching these tools, not just the juniors or seniors. It's the same skill, but depending on where you're standing, the move changes. If you're a junior, don't stop using AI. Embrace it. You have access to tools I used to think as sci-fi when I was at your stage. But use them as learning tools, not like a shortcut. AI can be a great learning partner if you use it correctly. Yes, prompt, generate, but then study what comes back. Treat the AI like an infinitely patient senior dev and ask it, why this approach? What breaks if we did the other way? What are the alternatives? Then maybe rewrite something by hand every week from memory. This forces you to think slower while you write so you can build up those mental models. Lines of code is a vanity metric, especially these days. The next generation of seniors will be juniors who used AI to understand better and faster, not the ones who ship the most code. If you're a mid or senior, well, embrace these tools, my friends. They're not going anywhere. Don't be the person probably saying, I still write every line by hand. That ship has sailed. But you have more important skills than just typing. You always had. Your edge is the theory you already have. The scar tissue from systems you design wrong. Use AI to amplify that, not substitute for it. Let the agents handle the boilerplate, the groundwork. And you stay on the architecture, the big picture, the pushbacks, and on the tough calls only experience makes. And if you're a non-tech founder, operator, or PM shipping with these tools like Lovable, Bolt, or Cursor, know this. What you're doing is real. Non-tech builders are shipping in weeks now what used to take teams 6 months. But remember the audits I mentioned earlier? Built by non-tech founders? Well, they did nothing wrong. They just didn't know what to look for. Maybe you don't need to learn to code anymore, but you still need to learn to think in systems. And maybe learn the language of software here and there. Ask those 3 questions before you ship. And know when to bring someone who does speak code. Knowing when is also part of this new skill. Like I said, different moves, same skill. Quick note, if this is your world, we're putting together a community called Agentive Build, backed by our product studio, and it's for builders, experienced and new, technical and non-technical, that want to ship AI-built products that actually last. Inside, we'll touch in more details on things like architecture, scaling, cost patterns, design systems, and other parts that vibe coding skips. Link below if you want to get on the waitlist. So, how do you actually train systems thinking when nothing's forcing you? How do you stay disciplined when AI is doing the typing? Well, I have 4 unsexy moves for you that compound on each other. Design before you prompt. Take 1 page and just draw boxes for components and arrow for data flows. Mark where state lives, mark where failures surface. If you can't draw it, you don't really understand it. And the AI is going to build whatever you didn't draw, which is usually the wrong thing. 10 minutes can reshape the entire conversation with AI. Even with all these tools at my disposal these days, I deliberately slow down and start with pen and paper to brain dump complex features before I get into building. Use specs as scaffolding. Write the what and the why before the AI writes the how. Even a short spec where you define a problem, the constraints, the success criteria, failure modes. It's the safest vehicle we have right now for working with these coding agents. I'll do a full video on spec-driven development, where it thrives and where it can break from my experience. But for now, it's the best scaffold we have for thinking in systems with these AI agents. Run the deletion test. Pick one component, any component that you shipped recently, and ask, if I delete this, what breaks and how badly? If the answer is, I don't know, that's your new homework. That's your study list. That's how you rebuild the theory. Study the generated code. Don't just accept it. In each meaningful PR, push back on your AI agent. Walk me through this. What alternatives did you consider? I said this before. Once a week, try to rewrite something AI generated by hand. That's how you keep those code reading muscles alive. So here's where I land. The people who panic that AI is going to replace developers, they're looking at the wrong layer. AI is replacing typing. It's not replacing thinking in systems. Nothing replaces that. At least not in this generation of models. Probably not the next one either. But there's also an uncomfortable part. AI amplifies you if you have this skill, and exposes you if you don't have it. Juniors who lean on AI without building the theory underneath, they move fast right now, but in 5 years, they'll be the people who nobody wants them on the team. Non-dev people shipping with Lovable and Bolt will keep shipping houses of cards until one of them falls on paying customers, which I've seen real cases. The skill is learnable. It's just not promptable. Draw the system, build the theory. That's the new curriculum now. Thanks for watching. I'm Hack. See you in the next one. Cheers.